Hiya! My name is Kama and I'm a mixed media artist living in UK. I'm Polish by birth, but I've lived in the UK for quite a while, where I make mixed media art, comics, anything that's weird, hence the name Weird. Weird is the best, truly believe it. And you're in part 2 of my 2-part video. You can start with this one if you haven't seen the previous one, and then go back to it. I'll link it up at the end. And I'll be sharing my favorite art supplies of 2024. This is the first time I'm making this kind of video, and it's turned out that it's much longer than I expected. And in the first part, I shared my favorite sketchbooks, my favorite graphite and graphite-like water-soluble things, neon highlighters, colored pencils, some brush pens of different kinds and types, a few surprise brush pens that I didn't expect to enjoy. And I also shared watercolors. And I'm sorry. And today we'll get on, we'll continue from there. And I can't wait to get into it. I'm kind of discombobulated for some reason. I don't know. Let's get to it. It will be fun. By far, my favorite is this Sharpie one. I think I need to find it again when I kind of ran low on my other highlighters. I bought quite a few this year. I was just on a rampage. Rampage? I don't know if that's the right word. But any highlighter, if you've never tried it and you like graphite, try it with highlighters, like to add an outline to an object that you drew, or to add a blob of color around it, or some highlights. It really pops. It's really nice. Okay. I said that and I realized that I didn't mention one of the nicest pencils I ever had. It's this Blackwing Palomino. I have different versions of it and they are all really nice. I really love the grey one, but I can't find it right now. It's one of those pens. If you've never tried it, I got these secondhand from eBay for a few quid, so they weren't too expensive. They were slightly used, I think, or maybe they were new, but they were like secondhand. And they come with an eraser, and you can buy eraser replenishments. I don't know how to say that, how to call it. You can... I think I broke it. I never did that before. I don't think it's supposed to. But anyway, hopefully it will still be okay. But you can buy replacement erasers, and I never needed one, to be honest. I think it will last you, unless you erase a lot. I often tend to use an eraser that I have on hand, and if I don't, then I can use the one on the pencil, I guess. Anyway, really like these. And I almost forgot as well about water-soluble graphite. I really like this art graph by Viarco. It's called watercolor graphite. They come in different colors. I prefer the black one or this graphite colored one. The white one is a bit disappointing, to say the least. I'm not sure, if I would recommend it, but there are also different colors, which I never tried. So art graph, if you've been on YouTube in the last year, you've probably seen it used by a lot of artists. Really fun, really unpredictable. It's a very different texture than your regular graphite or watercolor, but once you get used to it, it's really fun. Now we can move on. And next on the list is colored pencils. This is my top favorite of all time. I've used it up the most in the 5 years that I've been drawing. It's Dark Indigo by Luminance by Caran d'Ache. It's the color 639, sorry. And I have lots of stamps, and I've never really had a stamp before I had this as a stamp. I just think they're really cute. But the color is really beautiful. It's very rich, dark color, but you can kind of start with a light color. It's great for sketching with if you want to sketch. I really like it. Luminance by Caran d'Ache make a lot of different colored pencils, and I think, I'm not sure if all of them are, but I think most of them or all of them are light fast, which means that you can make finished pieces with these or use them for finished pieces. I don't know if that claim is true. I never looked it up really, because I use them for fun more than I use them for finished stuff. But yeah, I love them. There are a few colors. So these colors that I'm showing you now are very battery. This is like the most battery color I ever had. But some of them, like some of the reds and blues, I think it's because of the pigment. They're not as soft and battery as the other ones. So I think what you need to do if you are interested in trying these out is to try a few. Yeah, they are pricey. There's also Derwent Inktense pencils. And I also like Derwent drawing, but I think Inktense is my more used material. And this one's Bark 2000 is by far my favorite color from Inktense. I use it a lot. I used it for my graphic novel drawing, and I even have like a inkstone that you can use in the, like you can wet it and use it as watercolor kind of medium in the same color. It's really nice. Bark 2000 is, after a Dark Indigo, my most used pencil. I also really love Derwent Lightfast, and I think as the name suggests, they are Lightfast. I think LFI means Lightfast, or LF1 maybe. And this Seaweed especially, and I think Forest, and there's another green one, are really, really nice as a sketching device. So I sometimes just sketch with these, like draw people and things. It's good to bring one of those to a live drawing class. I think there's something about the way that this color in this pencil works that makes it easy to control the line with. I don't know what it is about it. I just really clicked with it. It was my favorite of last year, I think, and almost my favorite this year. I also have some magic colors, magic pencils, and they come in different brands, from different brands. This one's by Kohinoor Hardmove, and I think this one's called Tropical. And I used to think I didn't like this color, but I think this one is now my favorite. And I also have this magic pencil. It's a non-branded one from Amazon for a few quid. Maybe this one's Choosing Keeping, but basically the one from Choosing Keeping and the ones you can get online in packs of 10, to me, they're very similar, if not the same. And my new favorite pencil extender from Derwent really saved this pencil, and I'll be using it for the Luminance for sure, and the Seaweed, because I used it and I couldn't really hold it anymore, and I want to use it up fully. Also, one of my most favoriteest pencils of all time, Prismacolor, the Premier ones. They are very, very soft. So if you're like me and press hard, they will break quite a lot. So they're not the most cost-effective ones, especially in UK, because you have to they are made in the States, so they are quite pricey to import to UK. You can see how some of these are short, not because I use them so much, especially the orange and purple or violet. The violet and orange kept breaking when I was sharpening them. Because it's so soft, the drawback of that is that they do break a lot more. But I love them. And I found some open stock ones in Wrocław, so I bought a few more. I tried a bigger pack at my friend's when I went to the art retreat, and honestly, I think I thought that I would buy a full set one day, but honestly, I don't think I need all the colors. I had some favorites, so I'll be buying singles whenever I encounter them, but not the set, I think. It's quite a lot of money for colored pencils, if you're not going to use all of them, I think. Okay, so that's colored pencils done. Next we have a surprise favorite. I have these as brush pens and I do not like them. I don't know why. I never liked how they looked on paper. But Ecoline Duotip, using the same inks, I tested them. I have these two colors in the brush pen version and they are exactly the same ink. It's a watercolor ink, I believe. And I don't like the brush. I love these. I swatched these out in a video here on YouTube a few weeks ago, so you can check that out in the I really hope I remember all the things I'm mentioning. And I thought they were a bit weird, but what was weird in that video was the paper I was using. I since used them on a different paper and they are brilliant. I really like them. And especially the blue one. I think the blue, once I run out, I might buy an extra one. The ink in it just layers so nicely, and it's got like multiple, I think it's called shading properties. Really nice, by Royal Talents. Yeah, they're fun. I think they're expensive, so if you're like me and just using them for sketching, maybe it's not the best thing to use, because you can buy cheaper, doodling pens, but I got this quite cheap, and yeah, it was quite fun. Okay. Next. So in the last video we ended on the watercolors. So I showed some tube watercolors and some solid watercolors, like these ones. But I also haven't shown you yet my Japanese watercolors, or what they are. They are not technically watercolors. They're called Gansai paint, which I didn't know until recently, but they are kind of like watercolors, but it's a special type of paint made in Japan. To me, they feel like a mixture between somewhere between watercolor and gouache, but on the packaging of these, I have a bigger set as well. It says that they are watercolors, so I think you can treat them as watercolors. They're kind of very similar. They are much more opaque, and I have a weird feeling that they have the white pigment in them, the one that makes everything more opaque. That's my gut feel. I don't really know, but that's how it feels. And the bigger set, the Art Nouveau set, is really nicely packaged. The bigger sets have really lovely packaging, and they have this swatch guard on them. But I wasn't really using these as much as I was using these new ones that I picked up in Wrocław. So these are new colors. They were there where, I don't know how to say it. You could pick singles. That's what I meant. And they were quite inexpensive compared to UK. So I thought, you know what, I really love these colors. So I picked up a few favorites. And I've been using this sort of color combo for quite a while. So I thought these were safe choices. Little did I know that I already had a couple of these in my bigger pan, but I don't think it's going to be wasted. I do like them, and I use them quite a fair bit. I haven't used watercolors a lot this year, but I do like them, so I think they will get good use. I also got something really unusual that I've seen on YouTube recently. It's again Gansai Tambi, and they're all Gansai Tambi that I'm talking about are made by the brand called Kuretake in Japan. And this one is very unusual because it's, let me just open it. It's a super granulating paint, and each of these, when you paint with them, they have names like Aurora Red, Aurora Pink, Aurora Orange, Blue, and Violet. And there was one empty pan. I think they just ran out of colors or something. I'm not sure. But either way, there were 5 colors. And when you start painting with like Aurora Red, for example, it looks red and then it turns. It has this weird I forgot what it's called. It's not sheen. It's not shading. It's like with ink, you get the second color showing through. The granulation makes it so that you get the second color showing through. And some of them are really, really beautiful. I did some tests on some of my previous YouTube videos, so you can watch that. I will try and link that up in the description below. But they're really fun. They're definitely not light fast. I would doubt that neon colors are light fast. It's very unlikely. So I would treat them as, you know, your sketchbook paints, your maybe artwork that you're going to scan but maybe not sell kind of colors. But they're really fun to use. You can layer them up very nicely and beautifully. And I really wish to use these more in the next year. Maybe at the end of the video I will mention what I'm planning to use a bit more, or hoping to use more in the next year. They have been a bit hard and elusive to get in UK, but I think they come and go, so I wouldn't spend loads of money on them. They're about £20–25 per set, and I wouldn't pay more for them because they do come back. Like, I guess people import them and then they sell out very quickly, and then they need to wait for another import or something. I'm not quite sure, but you will get them if you really want to and are a bit patient. I think you will get them, because that's what happened to me. Exactly what happened. So that's the Kansei Tambi. Okay, the next is kind of very hype product. And every time I look at them, I want to get more colors, even though I'm too scared to use them. But I think they're kind of on my list to get from Japan. And I really want to be very careful about what colors I get, because I was very excited about this and I don't use them. I think maybe if I pick a more cohesive color scheme or something, that I will use them more. They are very expensive in UK, I think. In Japan they should be a little bit cheaper. I also have this Turner acrylic gouache. I don't know what it is. I think I'm very influenced by packaging and I much prefer this packaging. I think that's why I like it more than Turner acrylic gouache, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. They're kind of, acrylic gouache is kind of like gouache, but when it dries, it's what's it called? Permanent, so you can't re-wet it. But you need to wait for it to be fully dry. So if it's at all dry, if it's at all wet, it will re-wet a little bit. But if you wait for it to dry, it will dry completely permanent. And they're really nice. I don't know if they're light fast. I think they all have slightly different light fastness. The permanency rating on the back will tell you slightly more about the permanency. Some of them are more than others, I think. But I've seen a lot of people use it and I can't lie, I've been influenced. And I really like them. Like, the colors are beautiful. And I think the reason I don't use them as much as I would like to is because you can't re-wet them, so you need to be very careful about how much you squeeze out the tube, or use a stay wet palette. I'm not a massive fan of my stay wet palette because it gets a bit, the more you mix on it, the more the paper kind of peels. Even though, I don't know what it is about it, but I think that's why. And I'm also worried about damaging my paintbrushes, even though, you know, I generally use very cheap paintbrushes. That's one of the things I thought about talking, and I might talk at the end. Brushes, I use the cheapest brushes I use the most. But we'll get to it in a second. Maybe let's do it now. Makes sense to do it now. So paintbrushes, I use all kinds. Like literally all kinds. I picked up this one in Choosing Keeping. It's a Chinese brush for calligraphy. I tried using it. I think it's very hard to clean, so once you use it with ink, with like dark ink, I don't know, I would recommend you only use it with dark ink, because the dark ink will kind of stay in the brush. At least that's my experience. I think it's a natural brush, maybe. I don't really know much about brushes, but I feel like I can tell. And I'm not a massive fan of that. It's very soft and harder to control. This one is kind of like a liner, and I bought this one. I won this one with together with my the paints I won from Jackson's Art this year. This year, as in 2024. And I love a liner, so I'm saving it, and I'm not using it really for anything else. And it's synthetic, so it should be a bit easier to control. I'll be using it for some line work, hopefully. I also really like this Royal and Langnickel brushes. They're quite inexpensive. This one is not very... I struggle using smaller brushes because you can't really load them up with paint, or if you do, they're not very accurate. I need to learn how to use them better. And there's this Pro Arte, again, so small that I can barely use it. But it's not bad. I just need to learn how to use it better. I also like this brush a lot. I think it says Polar. I think it's like a squirrel mop, like a mop brush, basically. I think I need to let it dry a bit more before I put this on. One thing about white brushes is that any staining paint will kind of make it look a bit ugly, but I don't mind too much. It's just not the most aesthetically pleasing. But this one is size 10, and you can really load it up with water. So if I want to add a lot of water on my page or do a big wash of color, I can do it quite quickly. I have a bigger one. This one I won as well. This one's Silver Pearl, size 12. I haven't really used it yet. So these are ones that I use quite a lot. Or rather, I use this one quite a lot. I haven't really used these much. I also have this one, which I've used with gouache recently. I don't even know what brand it is. Like, that's just, you know, I just buy random brushes whenever I can, or whenever I see something. Boldmere is a really cheap brand from The Works. I bought it when I knew nothing about painting, and I thought brushes were too expensive, and I bought a massive, like, a pack of 6 or 8. Not massive, but like 6 or 8. And they were super cheap, like £5 or something. So they were like maybe less than £1 per brush. And they're actually not bad quality-wise. The paint will peel, so I don't leave them in water ever. But the quality of the brush itself is not bad. And because they're cheap, I don't care about wasting them. Wasting in inverted quotes. So I quite like using them. Yeah, different sizes. Love them. I also won this one from Roman Szmal, or from Jackson's, but it's by Roman Szmal. And this one's size 4, and I can't remember what the name of it was, but I think it's... I don't know if you can see in the video, but it's got like 2 layers to it, and I think it's to load it up with more water, but still have a pointy edge, end. And I quite like that. I only used it a couple times before, so I can't really tell for sure. But the coating is really nice. It's very smooth and nice to hold, as opposed to like the cheaper brushes maybe aren't so pleasant. But yeah, brushes, I mean, I have loads. I also like these ones that you can fill with water. I haven't found one yet that was perfect. Like, this is a bit too flimsy to me. Like, it's not like a normal brush. I think it moves too much. So it's a bit harder to control, which is why I don't use them as much as I could. But in plein air, I would use them a lot. This one I added some shiny ink to before inside, and that was a mistake. It clogged up, but I was able to wash it. It just left a residue. But this is my favorite, so I never threw it away. It's by Pentel. I hope to pick some up cheaply in Japan, because I heard they're really, really inexpensive there. And I also use this for mixing gouache paint quite a bit. And guess what's next? Gouache paint. So with gouache paint, I'll show you a few different things. Okay, so I tend to use this plate because I had these palettes. I have like 4 of them. There was like a set of 4, and they were all dirty. And I, like, as in they had paint in them. And I didn't want to waste the paint, so I didn't wash them because I wanted to use up the paint, and then I didn't use up the paint because I didn't paint. You know that? Have you ever experienced that? But anyway, I recently just used it up on like sketchbook pages. I just put some blobs on random pages, and I also created some collaging paper. But yeah, these are very cheap. I kind of wonder if a nice ceramic palette with wells would do better. They're a bit small, but there's a lot of them. I hope that I'll find something nice soon. If not, maybe I'll make one from clay and then glaze it really, really well to protect it from damage. Who knows? I think I'm rambling, so let's keep going. A nice thing about getting good quality art supplies from the start is that, hey, you use the best art supplies from the beginning and you get the best of it. But it's kind of sad because I was like, oh, I want to try different gouache, and I couldn't find a brand that was better. I picked this up after going to a workshop with a local art teacher called Amy Harwood, and she was using Winsor & Newton gouache, designer's gouache, and she recommended these as ones that were quite good quality. So yeah, so I got these, a pack of, just counting in my head, like 16 or something. And they are very nice. They dry quite matte. Most of them are opaque, some of them are half opaque, and they're apparently quite good permanence, AB. And they're really, really good. There's also Holbein Artist Gouache, which I'm still experimenting with. I only got a couple colors. This one's dark green. And they're Artist Gouache. I think there are different types of... so like designer's gouache is the professional one. Artist gouache is the professional ones. I guess like brands have student grades and professional ones as well. And I hope to pick maybe a couple more colors in Japan. They're a bit pricey. All of the gouache is a little bit pricey for me. And I don't use it enough to justify just experimenting too much. But I do have quite a lot of colors, so I can't complain. And another thing that I've started using recently after being scared to use it for too long is this Stay Wet palette. And it comes with this, so it comes as a very nice self-contained box kind of thing. And then there's some slots for paintbrushes. So it's very nice for planner sketching or urban sketching. And I used it before. I thought I wasn't going, at first I thought I was going to use it loads. But then I don't know, gouache is just a messy medium, I guess. Any wet media is. So I tend to take my pens, marker pens and pencils with me when I go out, but not gouache, for example. But I wish I was, because it's a really nice medium. And it comes with this Stay Wet palette. So it has a mixing palette here. It's not the biggest, so you probably will want a different one. These colors, I kind of had some of these ready-made, so like the yellow and these at the bottom. But some of them I kind of made my own, like these two. They kind of look the same, even though they don't really look the same when they're wet. And this purple I made myself. It's a bit separating, but I love that color, so I couldn't resist. I just googled how to make lilac and just did it with the best combination of colors I had. This red was a bit dry in the tube, and I decided, like, it was weird consistency, and I decided to save it with some clove bud oil, and I just dropped 1 drop, and it still stinks of clove bud. I cannot stand it, so I had to remove it, but it's still, I don't know, I think maybe the color permeated this box. But anyway, It's really nice palette. I have had it open for quite a bit, so some of the paints dried a little bit, like the blue here definitely dried because I can't really use it anymore. But I think if you spray it with water, it will come to life. I don't want to do it right now. But yeah, it's a really nice compact palette. And because it stays wet, you don't have to worry about using dry gouache, which is, I don't know, I just hate dry gouache. So there you go. I'm going to wash my hands and I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, I'm back. I also couldn't not mention what I use for water. So I just use this, I've just saved this dessert pod jar, I guess. And whenever I make it to, you know, over time it gets a bit dirty, even if you wash it. I try not to use my hands too much when washing these because I just don't like touching chemicals. I don't know. Call me superstitious, I don't know. Not superstitious, overly careful. And I just picked up this lovely, this is, I think, milk jug. But I picked it up in a charity shop. It's slightly chipped, so it was only £1, and I thought, perfect. I like something a bit more pretty on my table. Like, this is nice, but this is nicer. So, okay, so that's that. Let's put that away. Actually. Okay. What's next on the list? Already talked about brushes. Whenever I'm painting... Oh, I thought I lost it. Whenever I'm painting, I like sketching. If I do sketch, sometimes I don't sketch, but if I do, I like using a light water-soluble pencil, and it doesn't really matter what it is. I think this light blue works really well because it's light enough that even if I don't fully erase it, you can see it, even if it's, yeah, if it's still there. But you can use any color that's light enough, but it needs to be dark enough for you to be able to see it. I like water-soluble pencil because it dissolves as you draw, as you paint over it, which is great because it kind of disappears, so the sketch is invisible. I don't know where I got this tip, but I learned it like a few years ago, and I thought it was genius, so I stole it. Not stole it, learned from it. This specific one is Supracolor 2 Soft. It's really nice and soft, by Caran d'Ache. But yeah, any is good enough. And I had one that I broke, so I can't find it anymore because it's hidden somewhere. But there are those ones that are fully, not graphite, but the lead is the whole pencil. I forgot what they're called. Anyway, after I run out of the one I have, I will only use those because they last a much longer time and they're a bit harder, so they don't wear off as quickly. But anyway, it's just a, you know, a pencil. Okay. Next, one of my kind of favorites, I don't know, I have a love and hate relationship with them, is fountain pens. I've been talking for too long and I'm mixing up my words, sorry about that, but I'm committed. I will finish this today. Okay, so I love these. This is my favorite pen, or almost my second favorite pen. It's TWSBI Go, and this one's the medium nib, my favorite size nib from all of them. I have a thinner nib and a broad nib from the same brand, and the medium nib, my favorite, so much that I have two of them, and I love adding like a little suit dangly thing on them. I also really like this pen, and it comes with ink that I'm going to get to inks in a second. It's a Lamy, and it's a very broad nib. I love broad nibs in general. I just like that they're a bit different. They're not like a single line width. You can control, or you can have different widths of the line. Don't know why I like it, but you can see the ink in it, although there isn't much at the moment. And the reason I said I have a love-hate relationship with them is even with the fountain pen ink, you still end up with it drying in the pen. And I keep hearing about flashing and things like that, but I just don't. I don't know. I don't know. This one's Lamy. I forgot. I think it's a Sport. If I used it more, I would remember the name, but it's weird that I don't put the names on the pens. By far my favorite pen of all time. So this was my favorite pen until I found this one. This is Sailor. Sailor Fude Mani. No, Fude. I forgot the name. Fude Mane? Something like that. And it's a bent nib. It's at an angle, and it means that you can create varying widths of line. It's a bit unpredictable, which I love, although you can learn to control it. And it's great. I used it with platinum ink, which was, I got that as a recommendation to use this pen and this platinum ink, carbon platinum, from an urban sketching class that I went to this year. But I tried it, and then I realized that that ink is really thick, and you kind of need to be careful for it not to dry in the pen, and I cannot waste this pen. I love it too much. It's not the most expensive. It's like £15, I think, in UK, maybe slightly less. Yeah, I think this one was a bit more pricey, and these are like £12 or something. So yeah, I'm probably making these numbers up. I'm just guessing based on what I remember about them. By far, my top pen of the year, my top pen of all time, or like fountain pen of all time. Okay, let's get to inks. We just talked about fountain pens. So we have a few different kinds of ink. I love the iMine, but there wasn't one that stood out to me this year as much as these inks did. So this is by far the beautifulest color. Okay, maybe not. Apart from the one that I'm just going to talk about in a second. It's Pelikan Edelstein ink collection, and this one's rose quartz, and it's beautiful pink, but also it looks green in the bottle, and it sometimes has the green sheen. The bottle is truly beautiful. There's quite a lot of ink in it. It's expensive, but if you're using it like in your fountain pen, it will last quite a long time, I think. And I also bought, I did it twice, so I bought some ink samples from Fountain Feather. It's a company based in Germany, and they sell normal inks and ink samples. And the fact that they sell ink samples is a godsend, because I was able to try out so many different inks without wasting money on full bottles before, you know, I committed to a full bottle. And that's how I discovered how much I love Sailor. I think Sailor Dipton I love the look of, but it's a bit too strongly colored for me. But Sailor Ink Studio, my favorite ink of all time. I think it's not Lightfast probably because it's quite bright. But it's got not separation, but it can look two different colors at the same time, if you know what I mean. I think it's separation, maybe. And Sailor Manyo Nadeshiko is really lovely. I really hope I find it in Japan, although when I looked online, I couldn't. And there's also Sailor Manyo Haha. I really like that ink. So I might be coming back with some inks. Maybe. Okay. And the last ink is this unbranded. There probably is a brand name on it, but I wasn't able to Google Translate it. I picked this one up in London Art Centre. No, London Graphic Centre. It's an art supply shop in central London, and I think it's in Soho. And it's massive. I've only been to a few art supply shops in London, and this one was the biggest one I visited. And all it says on the packaging that I was able to translate was painting and calligraphy ink. It's very, very rich black. And it has this weird I think maybe it's for, okay, now I worked it out. I think this must be for refilling not cartridges, converters. Because it seems like the right size. I tried painting with it, but it was way too, like, it gave out too much ink. I think that's maybe what it is for. I'm too scared to put it in a fountain pen because I don't know anything about this ink. I'm not able to find information about it because there's no brand that I can guess from the packaging. So I use it with a paintbrush. I use it with the Chinese calligraphy brush, but also with like regular brushes. It's very, very, very dark, very like block. You can make a nice block of color with it, and it is shiny, but I don't mind it so much because it's such a nice coverage. So yeah, really nice wet ink. I think it's called wet ink, right? I also have something kind of related to acrylics, acrylic ink pens. And these are new to me. Uni Posca I've been using forever, like since 2016 or something. I wasn't even drawing, I was lettering. And they are really nice. I think you can use them on any surface you can imagine. Probably these two, I'm not sure. I only ever used them on either clay or paper. That's the only uses I had for it so far. I love Uni Posca. They're like, they come in all kinds of shapes and sizes, and even brushes, although the brushes do dry out in the pen, so if you don't use them regularly, they will dry out over time and you won't be able to use it much. But yeah, they're really, really good quality. One brand that I discovered recently is Artex, and although I do like them, their brush tip is not the best quality. But if you have Poscas and you don't have all the colors that you like, these come in all possible colors, so that's a massive plus. Some ink doesn't really feel like ink, but I think for the price they're not bad. Maybe black, I would get a Posca, but a lot of these colors are very juicy. And they also come as SimTab version, which I wasn't really going to talk about this much. But if you're after colors, then go for Artex maybe. But if you're after like maybe a bit more control or a little bit more quality, I would probably go for Posca. But I think both have their uses. Like for sketchbook work, I always use Artex. And then this year I discovered Edding, and this came as I bought them as an art subscription box, scroller box. And I don't really use acrylic markers as much as I used to, so I have a box of Poscas that I haven't really used much recently. But I thought I was interested to see how these fare. And they were really fun to use as well. They cover each color really nicely. I think maybe better than Posca even. Although they are quite frayable. I think they're similar. These are hard tips. They're probably, when it comes to permanence of the tip, I would say Posca wins, then these, and then Artex. But the colors, the coverage, and how nicely they overlaid each other, I would say Edding are probably better, and maybe Artex are the best. So yeah, each has its own advantages. Like every product will be different and will have strengths and weaknesses. But I'm really happy that I got these. They were really fun to use, or are really fun to use. Next we will talk about Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2. I've been using them quite a lot at times, but I always use them in bursts. So I'll use them a lot and then I will stop using them altogether, and then I'll come back to them again. I bought a set at one point. I think it was the warm color one, and then I kind of swapped these out. I don't really know why these colors are in this box, but I really love the range of colors that they come in. Some of them I bought as Neocolor 1s and 2s. The red one is Neocolor 1, so it's a permanent wax pastel. So Neocolor 1 is permanent, it's not water soluble, while Neocolor 2 is water soluble. So you can dip it in water, you can use it as the background, you can paint on top, you can put it on top of paint. Yeah, there's so many different ways you can use these, and you just, when you keep using it, you can tear off the top. And the white one especially I wanted to have as water soluble and permanent. I probably should have just gone for permanent, because I guess the water soluble ones are a bit softer, so it's not a waste, you know. They are very, very nice to use, and there have been times where I really enjoyed them. And I sometimes use them at drawing sessions because they're a very quick medium to lay down on the page. They cover quite quickly because they are quite soft. By the way, all of these mediums, if there's anything that you're seeing and you'd love me to swatch for you, I can do that, but we can't do it on this video. It's way too long otherwise. Something that I use a lot that might not be necessarily an art supply is washi tape. I absolutely love washi tape. I buy washi tape a lot. Whenever I see something nice, like a nice design, I will buy it. And let's start with the generic one. This is an MT one. This is a Japanese washi tape. You can buy it in a lot of art supply shops. My local one doesn't have it, but my local one doesn't have much. And it's a very nice washi tape. And they come in all kinds of designs, shapes, yeah, types. Like these. Oh, this one is actually not empty. Shinji Kato. And I got this one in France, from a Japanese shop, which was a random purchase. But I just really love the sakura trees. And there's this one's a dog. There's like a granny as a old couple. You can't really see all of it. But it's a really nice, lovely washi tape. This one I bought from Emily Pitt Illustration, and I really love this tape. There's so many different designs on it, and I'm really inspired to make my own like this. Kind of a grid kind of tape. I've seen that a few times, and I think it's a really cool idea. This one's from Yakfan. I never know if I pronounce their name correctly. I met them at Thought Bubble, and I love this tape. It's full of rude stuff and weird stuff. Leave Me Alone. It's very quirky. It's very Yakfan. If you've ever seen them before, you will recognize it immediately. Do one. It's really funny. And this design goes on and on forever. And I've thought, one day, I kind of want to swatch all my washi tapes in like a dedicated sketchbook. I do have a sketchbook that's maybe not as nice as my other sketchbooks, so maybe I'll do that one day. I have a feeling maybe I'll do it for Patreon or something. If you haven't heard, I have a Patreon. I won't blab about it now, but you can check it out in the links below. And these two are my own designs. These three are my own designs. I have a few now. And washi tape is something that I wanted to do for the longest time. And I designed these cats. This is a cat party with an imposter, and it took me a very long time to design it because I wanted to make it perfect. It's a big investment for a small business, and I loved it so much that I then ordered, designed a few more. I have one more. So yeah, I just love washi tape. I can talk about it forever. So let's not take too much time. One art supply I completely forgot to talk about is ink pens, and I won't bore you too much with them, but by far my favorite. So there's this Pentel Art brush pen. It comes with an ink reservoir and a brush part. You can buy the reservoir separately as a refill. I guess you can put your own ink in it, but I don't know how, if it will block up or not. There's also Pentel Pocket Pen. I think it's called Pocket Pen. Really nice brush. This one's a bit more advanced. If you're new to brush pens, maybe this one is a bit hard to use. But I had it quite early on in my lettering journey, and I loved it from the beginning. And I also started using these Uniball eye pens. It's waterproof and fade proof. This one's fine. And the blue one is amazing. The black one, I don't know why, but it bleeds on my pages in my Royal Talents sketchbook. But I really like the blue one. And okay, my favorite of all time. It's like #1 art supply. Maybe on the same place as this pen, but I think these win because they're waterproof and they're so versatile. Fudenowskie by Tombow brush pens. They're water-based, but they have pigmenting. When they dry, they are permanent, so they don't really dissolve with water, although I would use them on top of other media rather than underneath, if that makes sense. They're like fake brush pens. They are ink. Well, they say it's water-based, but it's like ink. They're great for drawing comics or illustration or lettering, anything really. It's kind of like a bendy nib. I can't talk enough about them. I absolutely love them. Don't know what I would do without them. I've been buying them for years now, and I went through so many. There's a soft tip and hard tip. I can't tell the difference. I think I mostly use the soft tip, but whenever I pick them up, I'm like, I don't really know which one I'm using. They're kind of comparable. They are also Japanese, but you can find them online if you search a bit. Some shops sell them, and I cannot recommend them enough. So we have a couple categories left. The next category will be miscellaneous, and I'll also show you some books at the end. So miscellaneous will be all things that don't fit in other categories, but that I really enjoyed using them. And I think if you can tell anything about me from this video, it's probably that I can't pick. So I do pick quite a lot of things as my favorites. Oh well. So my new favorite is this massive Mitsubishi 2000 sharpener. It does sharpen to quite a fine point or to a blunt point. You can pick by pressing this button. It has a really nice container and it sharpens the pencils really nicely. And it does create a bit of dust. But if you want a really sharp point, especially with graphite pencils, this is brilliant. I got it for Christmas as a gift, so really glad, really happy with it. And I also have this Derwent sharpener. At first I really hated it because it's hard to empty, but I think with time it got a bit easier to take it out. Nothing crazy about it. I've tried a few different ones, including like Kumo. This is by far the easiest to keep around in my purse. Never made a mess. Yeah, it's alright. I just wish they came up with a better way of opening it. And sometimes the shavings get stuck on the side here and you have to like loosen it to continue sharpening, but it keeps it clean. It keeps your shavings in one place. My favorite eraser, this is my previous one, it's almost dead, is the plastic eraser by Tombow Mono. Tombow Mono is a nice brand overall, or like Tombow is a nice brand, but Mono erasers are in general, and like pencils and things like that, are quite good. It's a very nice and neat eraser. It doesn't make a mess. Even if it picks up color, it doesn't really transfer again on paper. But fear not, we're almost at the end. I also use this syringe for whenever I have ink that I want to put in my fountain pens. So I don't like, this one is like a spring motion, which is easier to use. But in a converter, I much prefer using a syringe than using a converter directly in the ink, because it's a bit more messy if you use your hands and put them in your jar of ink. So this is just, I don't even know if it has a brand. It says BT something or BD something. Post-it notes, I use it for post-it tabs. I use it for marking different things in my sketchbooks. I work in like multiple sketchbooks at a time, and often I would work on my graphic novel sketches in a sketchbook for my everyday work, just because I feel inspired when I'm in it. So yeah, I use this a lot. And it's not just Post-it brand, I use any brand. As long as the colors match, I don't mind if they're different. It's just, sometimes they're really expensive, you know? And I also love this Sharpie pen. I use it, so this one's Fine Point. It's a permanent marker. It's like an alcohol one, so it smells a little bit. But I love drawing on my envelopes when I post orders. So I use this Sharpie. I used to use Posca and other markers, but by far Sharpie is the best for that. And Jetstream is just a pen. Nothing much to say. It writes nicely. And I love clamps for my sketchbooks, especially when I'm out and about and maybe it's a bit windy. You can clamp your pages down and make them neat, and they also look quite nice. I think we got to the end. Can't think of anything else. If I've missed something, I've missed something. I did forget one thing that I just remembered. It's an eraser. It's like a refillable one. So you can buy refills, and it's in a nice pen. It's very accurate, but sometimes not the most sturdy, I guess, but it's quite small, so it's understandable. One more miscellaneous item is this tripod thing from Moft. I haven't really used it much. I wish, yeah, it was an impulse buy. I saw everyone else using it. But I hope I'll be using it a bit more. I always forget how it works. Yeah, anyway, it's a tripod thing, so it's like a magnet, so you put your phone here and you can record. But it's an awkward angle, I don't know. I hope I'll be using it a bit more in the next year. I do realize that I said I might share what I'm planning or hoping to use next year, but we're running out of time. So whenever I'm in a charity shop, I try and pick up some illustrations if there's anything that inspires me. I love drawing trees and learning more about how to draw trees, so I picked up these 2 postcards. They just look really nice. Oops, sorry. So I picked up these 2. It's a Winnie the Pooh illustrations. And they're usually a few like pens. And I also pick up any tree reference guides or birds, anything to do with nature and things like that. I just love having these as references and to try and draw. This one's the latest one I picked up. Again, it has the tree shape and like a little bit of a detail. And art books. So this one's so it's like a sketchbook or like an art book. I don't want to show too much, so I'll just show a page of each. This one's from the Wild Pencil Art from on Instagram. I forgot the name of this artist right now. Magdalena Konieczna. I can't show you anymore because I've already shown you some, but it's really beautiful. I think it's gouache, maybe gouache and watercolor. If you haven't yet, follow the Wild Pencil on Instagram. I think it's inspiring if you like gouache. Then we have sketchbook zines, and I really just picked my favorite test because there's so many that I like. This one's by Fiona Stabler and it's from Japan. I hope to make my own when I go. It's really, really beautiful. I really like it. I think it's like marker pens, a fine liner, and sometimes maybe gouache. You can find Fiona at Fiona_Stabler or Instagram. Really cute. And I also have this by Savannah Storm, again, drawing Japan. This is before she went to Japan, and I think she's now working on one from her actual trip to Japan, which I'm also planning to get. Really nice. I love sketchbook zines. And this one's a Dungeons and Dragons sketchbook by Sarah Cousins, whom I met I've met all of these artists apart from the Wild Pencil. And this person, I met them at comic fairs, random comic fairs, and they're really talented. Like, this is all done using traditional ink, I think. I've seen their sketchbook once, so I'm pretty sure it's traditional and then maybe digitized and colored digitally, potentially. I'm just guessing here. It's beautiful. And we also have Travel Journal Sketchbook by Sophie McPike. This one's from Fortuna Retreat. I think I damaged the cover, or maybe it's like, maybe that's how she's quite about being imperfect and like embracing imperfection, so it might be just, yeah. Anyway, beautiful. And I have 3 of them right now, and I will be buying all of them whenever they come out. This isn't the best page. I'm going to pick one off camera just so I can show you a nice page spread, a nicer page spread. So it's a better representation, but it's like from travel, and she uses all kinds of mediums, watercolor, gouache, colored pencils, inks, anything you can imagine. I highly recommend Sophie McPike if you haven't heard of her yet. Check out her videos. She also does Scribble Brigade, and her Patreon is really cool. Check all of these people out. This one I got for Christmas for my partner. It's Anatomy for Artists, Morpho, and this one's about clothing. And I really want to learn to draw hoodies as well as like trousers, and how to draw folds, because I'll be using that a lot in my graphic novel. Really cool reference book, and it's a lie flat. I feel like I shouldn't be opening it too much, but it's a lie flat book. A few people on the listing I think complained about it being not glued, but that's why, so that it can lie flat. So there's a reason for it, for the cover not being fully stuck. And yeah, really cool. This one I picked up from the library, and it's Pencil Do More Art, and it goes through all the techniques of pencil drawings. Really cool. I can't wait to dive into it more. I think this will be my next thing to do. Okay, so that's all I had to show you today. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know your favorites. Do you have any favorites? Yeah, if you're just starting out, maybe I hope this helped you maybe get inspired a little bit. If you stayed until the end of the video, I forgot to do it in the last one, but leave me an emoji of a horse. Why not? Because horses are notoriously the hardest things to draw for artists. That's one of the things I want to learn to draw next year. And leave me the like, the subscribe, the usual stuff. You can hit the bell button if you would like to get notified when I make new videos. I make them weekly. If you have any questions, as usual, give me a shout in the comments. I love reading them. If there's any materials that you would like maybe more swatches of, or you know, a few more examples, do let me know. But as you can tell, if I did that with all of them in one go, it would have been a 10-hour video. So I can't do that. I hope you have a lovely day artsing, and until next time, bye! Thanks again for watching. Now on the screen you should see a link to the next video or playlist if you'd like to continue watching videos with me. Enjoy!